All right, Larry Krueger here at Levi's Stadium for the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er practice report after the Niners practice down here in Santa Clara on a Wednesday. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And they do run out, so get there early, get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. We're also brought to you by Sleeper this season on the Krug Show. The entire 49er football season on the Krug Show is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chats, season-long leagues, and of course Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. Use promo code Larry, L-A-R-R-Y, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, Niners on a Wednesday, getting ready to head to New York at the end of the week, where on Sunday they will take on the New York Giants in what is a big game for the Niners coming off of a loss to the Houston Texans. Niners looking to rebound against a defense that's 30th in the NFL against the run, so expect a big day from Christian McCaffrey. Let's talk about all the news of the day, though, as far as the Niners are concerned. We got up early today because there were some national reports connecting the Niners to a number of trade thoughts, so why don't we share those with you. Dan Graziano says, from ESPN, says he's confident the 49ers are not done making trades despite trading for Keion White yesterday. Graziano wrote, I know they've been calling around about pass rush help. They got some with White. They've been known to be active and creative at the deadline in the past years. I'm feeling confident they will do something beyond what they've already done. So that was the Graziano report. And then Jeremy Fowler says the Niners are one of the interested teams on Trey Hendrickson. Fowler noted, he says, up to this point, the Bengals have rebuffed trade inquiries and sources have maintained that Cincinnati has no plans to trade Hendrickson right now, but doesn't mean the Niners aren't calling. We did see John Lynch out at practice today, so we know he wasn't calling during practice, but I'm sure he's been very proactive in his approach. Also, Jeremy Fowler says he believes the 49ers could trade Jauan Jennings. Now, this is another interesting report. He said much is made of Jacoby Myers' trade prospects out of Las Vegas, but let's not forget about Jauan Jennings, who asked for a trade in the offseason over the lack of a new deal, despite nearly 1,000 yards in 2024. He's off to a slower start this season, ranking 5th on the Niners in receiving yards with 212. And then he goes on to say both sides could use a fresh start. Now that sounds like a sourced story, like somebody said to him, hey man, this guy needs a fresh start. So is that coming from the agent? Is that coming from the Niners? Who exactly is that coming from? We really don't know. Now, we did talk to Kyle Shanahan today, and I think Grant Cohn asked him the question about Jauan Jennings. And Shanahan first said, Jennings has been really beat up all year. He's got a bunch of different injuries. And then Shanahan said, I'd be very surprised if Jennings wasn't on our team all year. So it doesn't sound like they're on the verge of trading him at all. And I would say that Fowler report is probably erroneous. Maybe Shanahan is being, doing the misdirection with us, and they're really on the verge of trading him. But it doesn't sound like it to me. It sounds like Jennings is probably going to be here. As far as what happened today down here in Santa Clara, as far as who was out today, Jake Brendel did not practice. D. Winters didn't practice. Alfred Collins didn't practice. Yatir Gross-Matos didn't practice. Ricky Pearsall continues to not practice. Pearsall was running, though, on the field, on the side field. Bryce Huff did not practice with a hamstring. Trent Williams was given the vet day off. As far as limited today at practice, Brock Purdy, Shanahan was asked if Brock Purdy was going to get first-team reps. He said, I don't know if he'll get first-team reps, but he'll get reps. But Purdy was out on the practice field today, as was Ben Barch, who's trying to come back from the ankle injury. Jordan Elliott has an ankle. Sam O's got an ankle, but they were also limited today in practice. Now, we did see Ferrell. He was wearing number 96. Talked to him in the locker room before practice, and he's back. He says he's happy to be back. He's really excited to be back with the 49ers. And Shanahan was asked, hey, is Ferrell going to play this week? And he said, hey, we'll see what he looks like at practice. He looks pretty good, to be honest. He looks like he's in pretty good shape. He wasn't huffing and puffing. Sometimes guys get out of shape, out of football shape. I think Ferrell's probably going to be up. on Sunday. We also saw Keion White. Keion White showed up at practice. He was kind of a late comer to practice. I'm sure he had to do some of the trade protocols that you have to go through before you can go on the field, signing your deal, some kind of physical. So he was late out there, but he was wearing number 56, and he came over and gave Chris Kasarik a big healthy hug and introduced himself to his teammates, hugged Robert Saleh. I mean, they're really happy to see Keion White. They need all the help they can get on the defensive line. So, Kyle talked about him as well, and he said, hey, we really had a need at defensive line. The guy can play defensive end. He can play defensive tackle. He's versatile. He said he was a problem for us last year when we played New England. So this is a really talented player, and they're excited to have him. Are the 49ers going to make more moves at the deadline? Possibly. I would say probably. But Keion White, showed up today and looked pretty good, and so did Ferrell. So, Ferrell is more of a run stuffer. Keion White is a kind of an interior player who can also play outside. He's got great speed, but he's not really an edge bender. He's kind of more of a high effort guy who can play multiple roles. So he had fallen out of favor in New England. I called back to New England this morning and asked some of my friends back there, and they just said, hey, you know what? They were playing him more inside last year, and for whatever reason, he's fallen out of favor with Vrabel, and they moved on. New England also moved Kyle Duggar in another trade to the Steelers, so maybe they were looking to just cut some salary as well. We asked Kyle Shanahan, or he was asked today about Mikael Williams, and Shanahan said that they've been forced to play Williams more reps than they really want to play him, just out of necessity, because they need as many healthy bodies as possible. And he said he seemed pretty pleased with Williams, despite the fact he's had some first-year struggles. And he said, hey, we'd like to play him less. We'd like to ease his burden a little bit. And that's another reason that Keion White is here. I think the game plan this week is clear. Run the ball. New York Giants are 30th in the NFL against the run. They can't stop the run. They just gave up 200-yard rushers last week. Shanahan was asked about that game plan. He said, yeah, the same team that got gashed by Philly last week shut Philly down a couple weeks ago. So it's the way you play it, the day you play, for sure. But the Niners, for sure, are going to try to run the ball in grand fashion on Sunday. Expect a lot of CMC, a lot of Brian Robinson. Shanahan said, I'm challenging our guys to run the ball. So Ben Bartch potentially could be back on Sunday, and Shanahan was asked about Bartch, and he said, hey, yeah, we're going to see how he looks at practice, but yeah, he could be back as soon as Sunday. I asked Kyle about did the Niners have interest in the draft in Scatabo, who went to the New York Giants in the third round, and he said, yeah, we absolutely did. We considered him. We talked about him. He's an awesome talent. And obviously he went to the Giants in the third round. I think the Niners may have had some interest in the fourth round if he had been there when they picked. As far as Kyle was asked about the rookie class, and he said, he says they've exceeded expectations in his mind as far as what they've been able to contribute. He was also asked about Marquise Siegel and did he fall out of your safety rotation? And he said, hey, the plan was to give Mustafa the full run at safety this last week and kind of ramp him up. And so Mustafa's extra plays are Siegel's fewer plays, and it's just as simple as that. Kyle was asked about Jackson Dart and said how he was real impressed by Dart, mentioned how they're using some RPOs. He said he really likes what he sees when it comes to Dart. He was asked more questions at the end of the presser about Purdy and the toe and the timeline and this and that. And he just said, we thought it was going to be a couple-week thing. We gave him a couple weeks off. And then, he wound up hurting it worse. And now we've given it a number of weeks off. And so he's like, I know you guys want, hard and fast timelines on these things. But he goes, Brock's timeline is just not that black and white. It's just really day to day. And it's a terrible injury from that standpoint. You never quite know if it's healed. Some guys heal faster than others. The fact that he's practicing, I don't think probably helps it, but who knows? Maybe it has no impact. But he basically said, hey, look, guys, I know you guys want a hard timeline on the Purdy return, but we don't really have a timeline for you. I mean, it's not as black and white as that. So I would not expect Purdy back this week. As I said, I think Purdy's going to be back probably maybe 2 or 3 weeks from now. That'll be my guess. Maybe definitely out this week. I think definitely out next week. That would be my guess. And it's a guesswork. I have no sources. I'm just judging based on the way he looks, the way they're talking, how everything seems to be going. Kyle was also asked about Andre Dillard. The Niners signed Andre Dillard, and they said, hey, we've been waiting for him. So they had him this summer. He had an injury. I think it was an ankle injury. He's been trying to get back from it. And he was asked, is he the swing tackle? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. He could be our swing tackle. So the Niners are not stupid. I mean, they see what I see, that Pleasance is going to struggle and that they really don't have a swing tackle who can pass protect. So they're getting Dillard ready for the position, because Dillard, even though he's weak as a run blocker, he's really pretty good as a pass blocker. And at this time of the year, there aren't that many good options out there, and he's probably the best option out there. So they're getting him ready to be that swing tackle in case there's an injury at tackle. Or in case, my guess is that if it's just like, Trent's going, Colton's going, they're healthy, I think they'll probably stay with Pleasance as the third tackle and give him an opportunity. But if Colton or Trent get hurt, I don't think they're going to go with Pleasance. I think they're going to go then with Dillard. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Kyle was asked about this New York Giants team. He said, hey, man, it's like last week, they got a really, really good defensive line. So that's definitely something that the Niners are aware of coming into this game. All right, that is a full wrap on all the things that happened down here in Santa Clara on a Wednesday. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Sleeper for being a sponsor of the Krug Show as well. And we should also tell you that we got a brand new sponsor, and that's our practice reports this season are going to be brought to you by our friends at Plank. So Plank is a 50,000 square foot entertainment eatery in Jack London Square in Oakland. We'll tell you more about it. They just opened the Hub, which is a brand new sports viewing space with 30-foot media walls and over 70 TVs, and it's a great spot to watch games. So we'll talk more about it, but plankoakland.com, check them out, and they're officially a sponsor of the Krug Show. So thanks to Plank in Oakland for being a sponsor of the Krug Show as well. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube. Have a great day.